I feel like relationships have become very complicated of late. The more we evolve as human beings, we want to know what makes us tick. You don't want to just go down that traditional path where my mother did this, my grandmother did this, so I'ma do this. You want to find yourself, you want to know who you are as an individual, and I applaud it because at the end of the day, it's just a surefire way for you to know that you won't be in your 60s or in your 50s in a very miserable situation because you didn't want to discover yourself, or you do want to pursue things that actually light up your heart and everything. But now when you get into a relationship, these days you never know what's going on. Does this person actually love me, like genuinely love me, or do they just want a child from me? Does this person really love me, or are they just unable to pay rent in the leafy suburbs on their own? Because let me tell you, actually rent with it is actually a major reason why a lot of people are cohabitating. Ukiuliza msichana, would you be with this person if you had your own money? She's like, it's just that I cannot afford to live in Kileleshwa. That's just the reality of things right now. So now, how do you figure out if the person I am with, the person I am sleeping next to every day, actually loves me, or are they just stringing me along? Number one, their words and actions do not match. Have you been in a situation where somebody is always telling you they love you, they care for you, you are the one, but they never treat you like that? So you're always confused because how can you say you love me, but you're going to be cruel to me? How can you say you love me, but you're very harsh with your words, or even the things you do? It's not like relationship stuff, He doesn't buy you flowers. He doesn't open the door for you, but he loves you. How? That's just an example. Some people love you, but they don't open doors. I don't know how that works, but it is what it is. But all I'm saying is the words they say to you should actually match up with the actions they do to you or for you.
Yeah, and oftentimes we say communication is the backbone of every relationship. If you're not feeling like you're in a transparent, you're not feeling like you're in a respectful or sincere communication with your partner, then that could be a sign that, they're not that into you. And unfortunately, it is so difficult for us to plant the red flags when you see them. Sometimes you're like, no, am I asking for too much? Am I doing too much? Are they just busy? Oftentimes, it's really just a clear sign of, you know what? Yeah, they're not that invested and they're not that into you, and therefore they do not want to clear the airwaves, because that little bit of chaos gives them leeway to still play around with your feelings and your heart and your body, and eventually dip whenever they're tired or whenever they find someone else they're interested in. Transparency is relevant, is important, and is essential for any blooming relationship. And therefore, if there is no transparency, and we're talking about as basic a thing as where were you, and you're not getting a clear answer, it's probably time to start planting a few red flags. And if you see that the line is becoming long enough, maybe it's time for you to exit. But always try and communicate first. Don't just say they don't communicate and you're not communicating. Communicate. If none of it is coming back your way, then move.
Yeah. And also, if they are very selfish with themselves and with the relationship, because a huge part of being in a relationship is compromise. What can I do to make my partner's burden easier? If it costs me nothing to not switch on the lights when I'm getting ready, it's a small thing. So when you find yourself in a situation where you are the one who's always compromising, but they always get what they want all the time, you start to get a bit resentful. You start becoming a bit unhappy because all the love you're giving out is not being reciprocated to you. So that can be a bit, unbalanced.
Yeah, and jealousy is a disease, die slow. Okay, that's a joke. Jealousy can be a little bit of I feel like you shouldn't hang out with those people because I want to spend time with you type vibes. That's okay. You can pass. A little bit of jealousy here and there is good. It even can be essential to your relationship because it forces the other person to be better, do more, be more proactive in your relationship. However, it can border along the possessive and obsessive once it starts becoming a thing of, don't hang out with your friends altogether. You're being isolated from your friends, your family. You're being isolated. You're constantly with them. You can't make time with other people because you have always have plans with this particular person. And that altogether, coupled with where are you talking to that person? Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to on the phone? Can I see your phone? Can I? A lot of invasion of privacy. Now it starts to become a little bit of a problem. It starts to border on, this person is a little toxic and they're trying to draw me away from any form of support so that I am fully dependent on them for consolation, for love, for all of these things. And once that becomes your situation, it's very difficult to leave that level of codependency. You just need to recognize it for what it is and either nip it in the bud by telling them that, hey, by the way, I love that you love me, but you are doing entirely too much. Please learn, these are my boundaries, blah, 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 blah. Create boundaries. And if they are walked all over, then it's time for you to start thinking about, okay, not this one, maybe someone else.
Or if they're very inconsistent with how they are with you. Basically, if 1 minute they are very loving, it's the best partner in the entire world, he is very sweet or she is very sweet and caring, as in it is 100, you're living couple goals 1 minute. And then the next day it feels like literal hell because they are cold, they are angry towards you, you can't explain, you haven't done anything. So now you're just wondering, did I do something? You're always anxious around them. And then they switch back again. And you're now confused because you're like, see, a few minutes ago you were mad at me, you snapped at me. It's very inconsistent and it's very exhausting when you're dealing with such a person. But the thing is, they're also consistent at the same time. They are consistent with how badly they are treating you. So just don't be quick to just highlight all the good days and they're like, oh, but sometimes he's very nice. But 90% of the time, you're going through hell. So why do you still want to be in such a situation?
But ultimately, even in those, especially in those situations where it feels hot and cold, you also need to ask yourself a few questions. Is it really hot and cold, or are you feeling a little insecure? Oftentimes when you're feeling a little insecure or when you're doubting your relationship, you tend to have a lot of reading into things, you know? You tend to perceive everything as a big gloom and doom situation. So make sure that as you're analyzing the other person, you also self-analyze, you're also self-checking, you're also making sure that you're not blowing things out of proportion. There are things which are outrightly bad.
True.
For example, I wake up today and I ask you, babe, how you doing? And you're like, don't talk to me. That's outrightly bad. They are giving you cold. But sometimes they're literally in the middle of work and you're coming in like, hey, with all this kiki. You know, just analyze the situation. Make sure that you're not also a perpetrator and playing a victim. Always do that. Because you too are being looked at as a person who is, is this person really in love with me or are they messing with me? Don't forget, this is a two-man relationship, two-person relationship. Both of you are looking at the other to see whether or not you're being consistent, to see whether or not you're being da-da-da-da. So don't be so quick to act funny because you're also being looked at as, what did she do
Brand new.
Huh?
What was that?
What?
The ghetto.
Yeah, be careful.
Basically, all we're saying is just have a lot of discernment in all you're doing and trust your intuition. Women's intuition, people make fun of it, but sometimes unapatanga, you're always right. At the end of the day, even if you are half right, there was some truth into what you are feeling. So trust your gut in all you're doing. Have a lovely weekend. Stay warm. Oh, I can see feedback coming in. We have somebody saying, hello, ladies. You look very lovely. The show is awesome. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm sure a lot of you are sending now last minute.
Imagine,
as in, guys,
African timers.
Send at the beginning of the show so that we can sample all of them. Have a lovely weekend. My name is Tori Faye. Goodbye.
My name is Kathomi Kathomi. We'll see you on the threads.
On the threads. Kwa newsy.